you know, people will experience after starting using Nanosoma, they may experience symptomatic conditions and think, oh my God, this is making me worse. When actually what's happening is the body's in the process of clearing it. There are no coincidences in life. Everything happens for a reason in its own divine time. And to see these amazing products with the foundation being Nanosoma truly emerge throughout the world, it's a gift to humanity. It truly is.
Greetings, everyone. This is Martin Pytela, the health engineer and CEO at Life Enthusiast. And today we're coming with another episode of Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast. And I have the distinct privilege of introducing to you Sean McDonald, the general manager at Magic Dical Americas. Sean, welcome.
Martin, it is a delight to be here with you, and gosh, I can't believe we haven't done this sooner. So it's exciting to come on, and look forward to having a nice conversation with you today.
My journey with Nanosoma is about 5 years long.
Yeah, you got about 6 months head start on me, I think. So yeah,
Maybe. Well,
Maybe.
I mean, as soon as it came out, right? We were in the middle of the greatest panic of the military grade infection unleashed on us humans. And we discovered that perhaps that there is a way that life always wins over destruction somehow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are no coincidences in life. Everything happens for a reason in its own divine time. And to see these amazing products with the foundation being Nanosoma truly emerge throughout the world at that moment. It is not lost on me. That was a divine path being brought forward.
Yeah. I want to be totally melodramatic here because I think it's that important. I think it's the forces of the greatest darkness and greatest light that are battling it out. And I think planet Earth somehow is like the belly button of the whole thing. We are in it.
That's a good way of putting it, for sure. And there's probably a much longer path that we'll be on through this. I firmly believe that the light absolutely wins. And, I continue to learn more and more about the importance of recognizing our own frequencies, to recognizing our own energy, to paying attention, to being mindful of ourselves, even when it comes to using products, to learn how to truly invite their presence into your body, to let your body shine. And, I always try to do this before we go too far. I do want to say that these products, the Nanosoma family of products that we're going to talk about, Martin, you of course know this, they don't treat, cure, heal, or prevent any disease. Rather, they prompt our bodies to take care of themselves in ways we've just never imagined before. And it's truly profound.
And yet again, another example of light versus darkness, where we have something that represents the forces of destructions or destruction in general, telling us that we cannot use the words that are associated with healing, curing, treating, and diagnosing. They have taken onto themselves the terminology and tell us that, no, if you say those words, we own you.
Yeah. And that is just the measure of where and how we live. And I get asked all the time, how have you guys managed to, not draw any attention? Well, we take great care in understanding the arena in which we operate.
Right.
And while there is an absolute effort of expression of oppression on anybody in the natural wellness field, it is just something that we just recognize how to operate in. And we work very, very hard to be diligent in that regard so that these products are not interrupted.
Right. I see this as a fundamental difference between fighting something, like fighting an illness, versus building something, which is building health. And that's the space we own. We own we own strengthening your body's natural ability to function at its optimal level.
Absolutely. And that's what any natural modality is about, whether it's a supplement, whether it's, a natural modality. It's all about shifting your perspective from fighting for health or welcoming that, as you say, building good health. And that's what I mean when I mention frequency and energy. It is the approach people take. And I have seen a number of times where people will use these products and then tell me I'm getting nothing out of it. And I ask them about, what is your approach, and it takes time, but when you can shift your understanding. But my mother, absolute case in point. I can get personal on this.
Yeah, let's do that.
She's type 2, been dealing with type 2 diabetes for a long time. She functions pretty well, but she definitely has to manage it. She's in her upper 70s now. And immediately after discovering these amazing products, about 4.5 years ago, I said, Mom, this is going to help you and it may take time. I will send this to you. My gift, just use it. Keep going. Now, at that time, she was one of the most allopathic people I know, stick to what the doctor says. You got this condition, you need this. I said, listen, just take this, follow the instructions, and pay attention to your body and pay attention to the subtle changes because you should notice them. It wasn't even a month down the road. She calls me and she's like, I don't think this stuff's working. I don't like the taste of it, which of course, as you know, there's no taste or smell. People who experience a taste, that's our bodies immediately responding to the active ingredient in these products. It took me about 3 months for that taste to fade away. And it comes back even today. I've nerded out on this. I'll get back to my mom, but I've nerded out on this. Like, why is it that I occasionally get a hint of that flavor every now and again? So I started paying attention to my environment. Mm-hmm. And when that would happen, because most of the time it's just like water after that first 3 months. I guarantee you for 2 or 3 days after a heavy chemtrail day, which we got hammered yesterday with them. And suddenly there was no rain supposed to happen. Hammered within 45 minutes, mega thunderstorms. I mean, you can't make it up. It's just the way it is. Well, this morning it tasted bad. And so every time after chemtrails, if we eat at a restaurant, we try to eat very, very clean. And you can't always when you go out to a restaurant. If we eat at a restaurant that's using a lot of processed foods, which we try to avoid, I guarantee you the next couple of days, I get a hint of that taste. Why is that? Because we're constantly bombarded by things trying to knock us out of health balance. And these products, by design, bring us to health balance over time. And when we get knocked out, that taste comes back. It's just our body's responding to this beautiful active ingredient. So all that to get back to my mom saying she didn't like the taste and all that. I'm like, Mom, it hadn't even been a month. And it's like, yeah, I know. And I said, listen, here's what's happening. Just going to be straightforward with you. I think you're standing in your own way of receiving the benefit these products can bring to you because you have not understood them and you simply have not accepted that it's okay for you to not understand a thing to receive benefit from a thing. So I'm not going to send you any more, not to be mean, but it's just a waste of money if you're not going to use it. And we left it at that. I love my mom. I want her to be on it, but I'm not going to throw good money after bad if she's not going to receive. And that's a state of mind. That's a state of acceptance or not. So about 9 months later, she calls me up and she says, son, I've got the worst acid reflux I've ever had in my life. And my doctor doesn't understand what's causing it. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason of what I eat, if I eat, when I eat, what I drink. Do you think that nano stuff will work? And I sort of chuckled and I'm like, well, the question is, do you think it'll work? Do you think you can let it work? Because you didn't before. Yeah. I know it'll work. I know it'll help you. And she's like, I'll accept anything. I'll do whatever because this is just bad. I'm like, all right, fine. I'm going to send you 1 bottle this time. We're not going to worry about the aggressive startup protocol that we give to people dealing with active health concerns. Just do 5 sprays once a day. That's a month's supply. Let's see how it goes. She calls me up about 10 days later and says, I'm shocked it's gone. And I'm like, what do you mean it's gone? How much are you taking? I thought she was talking about the bottle being gone. And she's like, no, no, no. The acid reflux is completely gone. And the only thing I changed is using this. And I can't believe it. I can believe it. And I'm a believer. And she's been taking it every day since. And it's been remarkable. She actually used it in her eyes before a cataract pre-surgery exam. They did that exam. It was about a week and a half, she told me. And she said, I probably missed a day or two, but one spray in each eye for about a week and a half. Went in, they did the exam and said, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. Come back in a year for a normal exam. And that's one. I know you hear all these things.
Yeah, those are the stories.
Very common. Yeah, very common stories. And so that's a case that she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready to receive what these products could do for her when she started. And while she got a later start 9 months down the road, she did embrace it. And she's been taking it every day since. And I send her a bottle a month. And, sometimes she has to send her a couple, put her up on a little accelerated use because her A1C will go up. She increases, it'll go back down. She's still there. But listen, Dr. Raghavan, or Raghu as we call him, the inventor of these products, he's always said people should generally allow 2 to 3 weeks of use for any year you've dealt with any particular issue. And she's had type 2 diabetes for a very long time. And I tell her, Mom, it took you a while to get to a state of this condition. It can take a minute to get out of it. Just stay on the path, stay committed. And I'm so grateful that through all of that, as allopathic minded as she was, she did have the common sense to not follow the jab path. I was so grateful for that. And so, that's where I saw, okay, she's trainable. I can get her on this other path. Okay. And now she's more naturopathic than she's ever been. And I love that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have my own story to throw into that whole thing, right? Like I've had chronic health problems since childhood. I mean, I had hepatitis at 6 and mononucleosis at 15 and herpes at 18 and I don't know what else. Oh yeah, HPV at 24. Oh. Like it just kept on piling on me, right?
Yeah.
And I did the fast program. I started slow and it tasted pretty bitter and then soapy and then pukey. So I knew I was detoxing because I was going through the great dose of the flavors, right?
Yep.
But anyway, so once I did the fast program, it was 6th bottle where all of a sudden I had these retracing symptoms. Anyone who's done any natural healing will know it. It's just you get hit with the symptoms of the decline, except on your way back out of the hole.
Yes. And that's part of that healing process. People will experience after starting using Nanosoma, they may experience symptomatic conditions and think, oh my God, this is making me worse. When actually what's happening is the body's in the process of clearing it. And in order to clear things, you're probably going to experience symptoms as it goes out. People with skin issues, psoriasis, eczema.
Yeah. It's sort of like driving over the pothole, except at a much different speed and on the way out.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, that's a very good thing, better out than in, because in our experience and with all of the studies that Raghu has done, those things leave and they're gone, and that's just what the pattern seems to be. Yeah. I mean, there was a woman, I think she's based in Chicago, and there's photos of this on our information website. And she had dealt with a skin issue, pretty sure it was eczema, all her life, pretty bad. And she's a very brave woman. She started using Nanosoma. And she's in her 30s, attractive woman, started using it and took pictures of herself over this, I think it was a 4 or 5 week period of time. And she started out relatively clean, and then progressively lesions were building and building. And at one point, the worst photo is like her whole face, her head, her neck, her arms, like brutal, terrifyingly brutal. Yeah. She understood what was happening, and so she kept going, and she just kept documenting it. It was about 4 or 5 weeks into it that it totally cleared, and it's never come back. She's never had to deal with it again. And she sent us that graphic testimonial because she knew that if other people experience this, they may give up, they may not understand.
Yeah.
And it's tremendous that outcome. And that is ultimately the goal, better out than in.
Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly, it's been, well, I now regret not having taken some biological age testing back when 5 years ago when I started.
Right.
Because I don't have a science proof on paper that my biological age is this versus that.
Right.
What I know is that I feel good.
Yeah.
I have more energy than I've had, and I have greater resilience in coping with things. Like
Yeah.
when things got crazy here, I was working 12, 14-hour days straight and thinking, well, what the heck, right? And that's in my late 60s. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
now I'm pushing 73,
You're
and
looking pretty spry, my friend.
yeah, that's the point, right? Like
Yeah.
I just got off of my trampoline that I did a bunch of exercising on. I did my squats and push-ups and all of that, and I'm just saying, yeah, okay, I can probably compete with people that are 10, 15 years junior to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I would love to have that biological age equivalent test done. And they used to be pretty expensive. I still think they're expensive. It's, I think, probably $400 or $500 to do one of those, to do one right. And of course, during COVID, during that whole thing, none of those labs were doing anything but those tests.
Yeah, I just wanted to do PCR. Thank you.
All they were doing because they were, rolling in the cash for doing that.
Yeah.
In fact, the last biological age equivalent test I'm aware of that Ragu did was just before that, and and that test came back. I think he's 72 or 3 now, so that's you back up a few years, but he had the equivalent age of a 48-year-old male. And the time before that, he's done these regularly since he started using the product, which is about 14 years ago now, because he released that in India first. It had been on the market in India for quite a while before it came across Dr. Richard Presser's hands, which brought it to America en masse anyway.
Yeah.
So,
you know what a clever guy. He goes out and he takes it out in the third world. I think he launched in India and Malaysia, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And you prove it to the world that it's A, safe, B, efficacious, C, you have enough material to patent the darn thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this guy so knew his game. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the years in the pharmaceutical industry that he did in America that gave him the business acumen to do it right.
Yeah. I mean, he is brilliant. And the way he brought it forth, and medical doctors in India have this integrated, like it's pretty common. He's got testimonials from heart physicians about extreme cases suddenly turning around.
Yeah, I think it's only North America where the standard of care is the mantra that we follow. Like in Germany, for example, a doctor is allowed to do anything that helps the patient, regardless of what toolkit it comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. My colleague based in Germany, Dr. Roland Hillerman, he was, well, he still is a naturopathic doctor, but had 30-year practice, naturopathic physician. And so as he learned about Nanosoma, which led him to doing what I do, but over there, he started integrating that into his practice. And I've done a couple of these interviews with him, and he's talked about the observations that he's made. And he's great because he could talk about it from that doctor perspective and what he saw in his practice, and it's truly remarkable. But I want to get back to that age equivalent test for just a moment, because I also haven't done one. I've used the product 4.5 years. I know how I felt before I started using it. I'm already blessed with good health. I'm grateful for that. So I wasn't swinging for the fences. I didn't have anything. In fact, my wife and I, we own a wellness center here in the Lexington, Kentucky area where we're based, which is how it crossed our paths in the first place. She's an acupuncturist. We have a variety of modalities. I kind of manage the business while I'm doing this full-time work with Magic Dical. But so we're both like how are we going to even know if this works? A friend of ours who has since passed recommended it strongly. And so I started looking into it, probably not much different than you did. Something comes across your path and you want to evaluate it. And it was clear there was something special about it. So we ordered some. I got in touch with Richard Presser. We started talking and just learning about the product. And for me and for her, we both felt a very strong spiritual connection, energetic connection to it immediately. I can't describe what that felt like, but I could tell there was something different within my body. I immediately noticed that I was sleeping better. I was waking better. I used to not wake up. I never got along with morning. I mean, I was a 20 times snooze button hitter, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, like within days of starting to use Nanosoma, I find myself waking up clear, like with clarity, ready to get out of bed 5 minutes before my alarm goes off. I'm like, that's really weird. And so I started paying attention to those things. The subtle sense of deeper energy reserves throughout your day, that ability to maintain without getting that 3 o'clock, I need coffee crash in the afternoon, cognitive clarity. These are the things that I really started noticing. And as it turns out, it's extremely common that these are some of the first things people do, in fact, notice when they start using these products. So all that to say, back then I knew how I felt. And then I sort of just tracked myself. And over the last 4.5 years, I've noticed a few things. One, when I started using it, sides of my head, I've still got some gray hair. I don't use a color product, but my hair was turning platinum silver. It has slowly, the color's coming back. And, I can notice that. My energy, cognitive function, all of that. Sunday, I turned 55. And I have never felt more young 30-something in my life. I mean, 30s weren't that far ago. I remember how I felt in my 30s, but I feel so much better now than I recall how I felt then, from a completely different perspective. I think you probably understand what I'm trying to get at. And that's just like, I will use these products every day for the rest of my life, even though I'm already blessed with good health. I know that they're maintaining that health, Yeah, just to understand, and this is what I try to communicate to people, is there's a couple of key things you really want to understand about these products. Number one, they have several patents on them, and they're patented across 80% of the populated globe. You do not get a patent if you cannot prove definitively what the goal of the patent is. One of those patents, and I think, unless it's changed, but I think when you got the patent, it became the quickest approved patent in the history of the patent office since the late 1700s. And I think the prior record holder was Edison's light bulb. That may have changed. I don't track that sort of thing. Maybe there's something else that was approved quicker, but it was about 30 days as I understand it. And that's the patent that when you use this product, your body as a human being begins producing endogenous vitamin C, which human beings don't do. We're one of a handful of mammals on this planet that don't make our own endogenous vitamin C. And so that's critically important to your immunity and to so many aspects of all of the operating systems within our bodies. So here's the rub, though. You can't take enough vitamin C supplementation to have what you really need, because your body is smart enough to know that it didn't make that vitamin C. And so it starts flushing it. Much like insulin patients are given 20 times or more the amount of insulin that is intended to remain in their system to be operational, because doctors and medical science knows that the body recognizes it as synthetic and not of its own origin, and it will clear it. Our bodies were given the innate knowledge of how to take care of themselves. It's part of creation. And what happens is, through our lives and through being constantly bombarded with things that are detrimental to our health, our body systems and lose the energy they need to function properly. And that's through damage to the mitochondria, losing cellular energy. I know you're very, very well versed in this, but as you lose cellular energy, that's your body's battery pack, if you will. Your body doesn't have the energy it needs to operate optimally. So if you can give yourself a tool like Nanosoma, that the active ingredient in starts prompting the body to reestablish the integrity of the mitochondria and allow the cellular energy to increase suddenly your body starts functioning properly again. And when that happens, the issues people have start getting corrected. It's the function of the body, and the body has the intelligence to do that. What it often lacks is the energy to do that. I like the analogy of using a cordless drill, a battery drill with a low battery. You can pull the trigger and it spins. Technically, you can say that drill works, but it doesn't have the strength to put a screw in the wall. So it really doesn't work. But if you charge it up, you're good to go. Our bodies in that vernacular are very similar. If you can give your body the tool that can allow the body to increase its own cellular energy, suddenly those systems begin working well again. And ultimately they work optimally. And the body itself can now clear, correct, bring itself into homeostasis over time. And that's what we see. And that's what I try to communicate to people. And that is a journey, and everyone's journey is unique. You can't put one equation to say, well, this happened to this person or this happened to me in this amount of time, so that's your expectation. That's not realistic.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the terms of what this is all about. Like, for example, you're talking about the available energy. So if your mitochondria, and these are the little combustion chambers in which food is converted into energy, don't get enough energy incoming and don't get enough oxygen incoming and are not effective enough themselves, it's sort of like plugging up your fuel filter, plugging up your air filter, and maybe giving you a lower octane fuel for your combustion engine, right?
Correct.
All of which will take away the horsepower. So to your analogy, you can run the car coasting along flat ground, no problem. But if you try to go uphill, you can maybe go, but you can no longer pull a trailer.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Something of that sort.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so here's the important part. When you have sufficient energy, you can repair. That's like the uphill. Or you can physically work out. That's the uphill. Or you can restore from an infection or some sort of a external assault that has put some stress on you. And here's the magical word, stress, right? If you're living a stressless life, you don't need a lot. But introduce me to the people who have zero stress.
Right. And, we all know that stress directly correlates to detrimental health.
Which is aging, and which is rusting, which is oxidation, which is the lack of the antioxidant, of which the vitamin C is the universal type. Vitamin C and D and A and E, those are and the Bs, not ignored. Anyway, all of
these are important. Yes.
Yeah, all of these are the antioxidant types that will undo the damage caused by the stress.
Yeah, and that stress, what's interesting, something that I've learned recently in the last year, and it's a side note to this, but it's just part of my wellness path. I've really started a deep and personal meditation regimen. So there's some meditation practices that I follow. I find to be, and the person doing it, I won't get into that here, but the person doing it, I think, is probably the foremost authority on it, and he's just a tremendous person. And I've had life-changing.
Drop a name, will you?
Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you haven't listened to him,
there we go. Does the most magical man on the planet, who has the ability to explain to each one of us that we can in fact restack the pile of whatever we call it, bricks that we're coming with.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've learned from him is, and I had no idea about this. I mean, I know, like a lot of people know, we have basically 4 brainwave patterns that we go through every single day. We wake in, typically we wake in beta, or some people wake in alpha, but we go through beta, alpha, and then theta, critically important, and then delta, all systems down. That's your sleep pattern. And then you wake passing through theta. Yeah. But most people, there's another brain pattern in beta called high beta. That's where the bulk of people live during their day. That is your fight or flight mode. That is your stress mode. When you feel stress, go ahead.
No, well, you're saying it well, but it's the
Yeah.
overstimulation. It's the autonomic nervous system in the sympathetic overdrive.
Yep, absolutely. And that drives that stress, that feeling you get when you're getting road rage or your coworkers aggravated you, and you can feel those emotions in there. That's all building. Your body's now producing large levels of cortisol. Now we have that fight or flight mode for a reason, because if you got a mountain lion coming around the corner, you need to go. But here's the thing: no organism can live sustainably healthy in a constant state of high beta or fight or flight. But most of us stay there.
Well, let's explain why.
Yeah.
Because you divert all of your resources to the immediate preservation of your existence,
Yep.
which means you're shunting all your resources away from digestion, away from reproduction, away from repair, away from restoration of your existence. Everything is shunted to the immediate survival.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And so when you recognize that and you can bring yourself down and you can get a release from that, now your body can use that energy to start doing positive things for you. And I think that's one of the reasons when people start using Nanosoma, they experience a noticeable change in their sleep pattern, a noticeable change in their stress management and all of that. It's because the body's using it as a tool to go take care of what it needs to take care of with its own prioritization. There's so many people, and I know you do this too. We go to a lot of effort to teach people about the whys and the hows of what's happening when you use Nanosoma, because people get online, they read these profound and amazing testimonials, because some people have really, really rapid change, but that's not usually the general outcome. It's a journey. And so when you start using it, the body essentially wakes up at the cellular level, does a triage of what's not right from a health perspective, and the body itself chooses what it needs to work on first. And we see pretty consistently that the more life-threatening issues tend to come into balance first, and then the body will work down the line. So one of the things that I explain to people, and because I think it's easier for them to understand, and we have testimonials, we have customer feedback on this, we've seen pretty consistently people with what I would call life-threatening high blood pressure. You're medicated, it's serious, you don't take it, you could likely die. Like, that's kind of serious stuff. Yeah. We've seen that normalized for people in weeks to short months. It's always variable, but that seems to be kind of the pattern. Whereas people with what I would call nuisance high blood pressure, medicated, it's an issue, got to be managed, but you're probably not going to die if you don't take the medication. We've seen that consistently take 9 months, 12 months. It's just a longer journey. And I have come to believe, because I'm not a medical researcher, but I have come to believe that is the body may be over here working on something else you may not even be aware of. And it'll get to this thing over here. So you buy the Nanosoma because you want to get this done. And then you're like, nothing's happening. When in fact, you might not be aware of the contributing thing to this high blood pressure, and the body could be over here taking care of it. And then all of a sudden this starts to move, the needle starts to move on it, which is important for people to understand, because it is a journey and we don't get to choose what the body's going to work on first. Now, there are things you can do, like our gel product, for example, the Nanosoma gel. Right. It's what I call my first aid kit in a bottle. It's the same formulation as Nanosoma. It just has a little bit of edible xanthan gum in it, makes it thicken up, and you can put it on your skin. As you know, we didn't have that product when Nanosoma came on the market here in the United States, and it was the second product developed. And for example, I use the spray every single day. But last April, I like to cook, and I had just gotten a brand new food slicer, and I was making some scalloped potato, and by God, on the first potato, I bumped that blade and I cut my thumb really, really bad. And I mean, you can't see here, but basically it extended from the tip of my thumb about 1.5 inches vertically down and almost all the way into the nail bed. It was a very, very bad cut. Yeah. Probably would have used about 12 stitches, but call me stubborn. I just don't engage the allopathic system if I can at all help it. So I got the bleeding stopped. That was an effort. Once I got it stopped, I could realize how serious it was. And I just grabbed my Nanosoma gel. I put a bunch of it on there and I bandaged it. And I did that morning and night for 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, you could not tell that I had a cut. You still can't. There's a cut. There's a scar on my thumb from a cut when I was about 14 years old. And right next to it is where I did this one. And if you look extremely close, you could tell just a tiny little bit. But 2 weeks, even if you had stitches and let it heal naturally, that's about a month probably that it would take for the tissue to repair itself. Yeah. And when I talk to people, they'll say, well, why is that? How is that even possible? Well, one of the magical things about this active ingredient that is patented under the name Dical, and that is, we should probably talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I want to get into the secret sauce of this.
So this Dical, it is what we call a nanoemulsion of polycosanol. Polycosanol is a molecule that's found in plant life and unrefined food. It's made up of a series of long-chain lipid alcohols. Our skin is a lipid alcohol. They hold biology together. They're essential to biology. The polycosanol, in its raw form, for example, everybody sees it, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere in nature. That waxy substance on plant leaves, for example, that water beads up and rolls off. That's actually called cuticle, but it's made up of polycosanol. So it's everywhere. Some foods have it in more concentration than others. For example, unrefined sugarcane, unrefined rice, those just happen to have higher concentrations. We source it from unrefined sugarcane. There's no sugar in the product. It's just where we get the polycosanol from. So this little waxy substance. Now, if you dissolve sugar into water, you can't see it anymore. That's a nanoemulsion. It just becomes so small that you can't see it. And it's still sugar in the water.
Actually, I just want to go technical a bit.
Sure.
It's harmonized and nano-sized. The word nano, people get confused about it because some people get panicky the moment you say the word nano, because there are some nanobots that, anyway, the point is the word nano is that you measure it in nanometers.
Yes.
And this particular thing is around 60 nanometer in size, which is the right size to get through the cell membrane. And that's the important bit.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because this is so small, there's literally like billions of these particles in one bottle of Nanosoma. They're so small. It's amazing. And yeah, it is just, I think it's just a tick under 60 nanometers, which as a reference is about half the size of a virus. So it's microscopic, it's extremely small. And yes, you are correct. That is what allows it to pass into our cells. Very few things are small enough to get inside our cells, and gets inside our cells, passes through our blood-brain barrier. So essentially, it's penetrating our entire cellular genome. And that's why our bodies wake up. That's why we have this cellular response from this nanoemulsion of polycosanol. Now, here's an interesting thing I find interesting anyhow, is that there are a number of polycosanol-based supplements on the market around the world. And those are recognized as having the potential to essentially do one thing, which is potential to help lower bad cholesterol while boosting good cholesterol. That's it, as far as my understanding goes.
Yeah, the non-nano-sized and not emulsified. There's the other word that should be used here, which I don't know, let's go technical. Emulsification. You need to be able to transport it on water because it's a fatty object. And if you don't emulsify it, it just doesn't go.
It doesn't work. I mean, it's a waxy substance. Getting something waxy to play nice in water in the first place, that's not easy to do. Well, that's the emulsifying.
It beads on the surface and sticks to the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's really the amazing thing that Dr. Raghavan achieved. And of course, he spent a career as an organic chemist in the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, this is what he does. But he had the wherewithal to recognize that polycosanol was the thing to work with, and nobody else had achieved it.
Yeah, isn't that interesting how lucky you get when you have 25 years of experience meeting with 12 hours a day effort?
Yeah, all of a sudden you're the luckiest guy on the planet, right?
But here's one other thing that really impressed me, which was that he understood that he needed to have it in clean water because this stuff is infinitesimal. It's tiny. right? Like this is essentially what's not homeopathic, but it is in that level where you are delivering a highly diluted nanoparticle, and you need to have it in clean water.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can't use just any water. It won't maintain this emulsification. It just won't. In fact, there's very few sources of this type or structure of water, if you will, that is required. And while
Yeah, I just want to highlight this because I mean, I spent 25 years in this, and so I just don't want it to be glossed over, which is this. Water is actually a polar crystalline liquid crystal structure. And if you have impurities in water, those crystals form and will no longer be homogeneous, or will no longer allow homogeneous dispersion of whatever you want. Meaning this, if you have water that has been cleaned, deionized, that's actually still not good enough, because you need to erase the electromagnetic imprint that the water has. And ancient glacial water has that.
yes, yeah, that's exactly right. And in fact, on this path of developing this, there was a text that Raghu had come across, the 5600 BC text called the Rig Veda. And as I understand, it's like 260 different words that describe water in this text. And one of them is pristine water.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, he worked with a Hindu scholar and got the true definition of what this word pristine water meant. And it was a reference to the glacial meltwaters on Mount Kailash, which of course is believed to be the earthly home of the Hindu god Shiva and others. Very, very sacred place in the Tibet region. So you can't access it. But he actually said, okay, ancient glacial meltwater, I can work with that. And it turns out that the glacial meltwater from the Swiss Alps is the same construct, if you will.
It's the destructured water.
Yeah. And
water that has not been in contact with contamination of the modern industrial age.
Right, exactly. And
actually, I remember as a kid, I was told stories, fairy tales, if you will, that talked about living water. And you give this living water to a dying person and they are revived.
Yes, I remember hearing stories of that nature myself, and am only just beginning to understand what the heck any of that meant. And as you develop this understanding, so you're absolutely right, and it is not to be passed over the critical importance of the water that is used in this product, because you have to maintain the integrity of this emulsification.
Yeah, the other thing that I would like to mention and talk about is this lauryl sucrose. I remember getting a call from somebody saying, you put sugar in the thing, which I have to say, well, listen, this is 98% water and you're taking a milliliter of it at a time. So pipe down.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, can you just talk about the word sucrose and lauryl and what the heck's going on here?
Yeah. So there is an ingredient called sucrose monolaurate in this product, and their amount of sucrose monolaurate in the product is 0.238%. So not even 0.25%. It's extremely small. However, this, plainly put, is the secret sauce to how this nanoemulsion is maintained. It is the emulsifying agent. You have to stabilize this particle at less than 60 nanometers for it to be able to get into your cells. If you don't have this sucrose monolaurate, you can't, as the emulsifier, you can't achieve the outcome. That level is extremely small. And while most things can become toxic for us at any certain level, we're nowhere near what it would take. Nowhere near it. I mean, like light years away from the amount of it would take. Yeah. But it's necessary and effective to do this, and people always get concerned because we have citric acid in it, which is a preservative that's required in most countries around the world. I mean, if it wasn't required to be there and it didn't have a purpose to be there, it wouldn't be there. Very few ingredients in the product. They're like, yeah, but that's that's synthetically made and it's toxic. Well, it turns out that the citric acid that's in Nanosoma is sourced from organic lemons. We're using natural citric acid.
How about it?
And again, there's a ridiculously small amount of it, and it's only there because it's a requirement as a preservative.
What's interesting when you were speaking about the sodium monolaurate, I'm reminded of an engineering concept of a relay or relay switch or a transistor, if you want to go electric, where a tiny amount of current can switch a very large leverage. Like, for example, you flip a relay and it will trip a switch in the rails and the train goes from heading east to heading west just by flipping the relay switch, right? And so when we flip this little tiny little switch, it changes or it enables a very grand change in the functioning of the organism.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's, all of these things are just really, it's fun to talk about. I've gotten to know it. I'm not a science. We have scientists. We have so many published studies, and Raghu's constantly doing more and more. I've gotten pretty good at reading through the abstract and the conclusions. But boy, if you don't have a PhD, it can be pretty brutal wading through the middle of these studies. But there are so many amazing things, and we add them to our websites all the time. In fact, I should probably send you some so you can get some of the new ones. And
sure, let's add the newest ones. I mean, I've only listed the patents as far as I remember.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool things, especially, I'm not sure what your level of knowledge is. Mine is, this is when it's fun to have Roland on. We might bring him on at some point in the future and he can chime in on some of these things. But the studies that Raghu has done recently are showing amazing outcomes in the body's ability to produce its own clotho or clodo. I'm not sure exactly. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Clodo, Klotho, is apparently a very powerful natural anti-cancer agent.
All right.
So medical research is really working at ways to get the body to produce it at large levels and to direct it.
Yeah, you're not fighting cancer, you're enabling health.
Exactly. Turns out, when you have nanosoma and this nanoemulsion of polycosanol in your body, your body does it on its own in profound ways. And there's the really amazing studies I'll send you that get into this. Also with another, I don't know if it's a protein or a gene, I don't know. I just don't have that background, but they're called surotines, something to look into. Also very powerful anti-cancer agent that the body can produce. So these are the things that are constantly being studied and the outcomes, and he's getting published in the more and more knowledge in the medical field and the medical research field about this. There's going to be an explosion at some point. People are going to really say, oh, wait a minute. This little thing over here, this guy developed and patented is pretty powerful. We should look into this because it truly is.
I guess if I were to try and say it in simple ways, I would be saying, hey, folks, we'll be finding more and more ways how this thing is enabling building of health and disabling things that are making you ill. So
absolutely.
There's so much about what you did and how you got to this dysfunction, whether it's through toxicity or malnutrition or whatever it is that you have done stress-wise. We will just be supporting you getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said. Very well said. And there's so many different aspects to it. As we could talk all day about that. I know we don't have the time.
Yeah, I think we would want to not carry on forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would like to nerd out on it for a long time. But...
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's fun about having a guy like, Roland come on. He's brilliant. He's South African birth and home, but he's lived in Germany for 30 years or more. I mean, he's German, South African, brilliant, amazing man. We actually met for the first time. We've worked together for years now, and we met for the first time in March. We did a trade show in New York City, called the New Life Expo. It's like going on for 30 some years. It's huge. And we had the opportunity to go up there and be one of the sponsors of it.
Right.
Dr. Raghavan was speaking there, and that was really the motivation. It's like, this is a great opportunity. So we knew I couldn't man this booth by myself. I mean, this is, we're at the New Yorker in New York City.
Well, let's plan. Yeah, let's plan on doing that. Unfortunately, I have a hard deadline coming at me.
Sure. Well, let me just complete this by saying all of that stuff aside, I think the most important message for people to hear about the Nanosoma liquid, the Nanosoma gel, and the Nanosoma skin cream is that it's a gift to humanity. It truly is. And everyone's path to wellness is a journey, and everyone's journey is unique. And you just get online, do some research, ask Martin about it, go to the magicdical.info website where all these papers are housed for now. I'll send some over to you, Martin, so you can keep your people on your site. Just if you haven't embraced this, do yourself a favor and integrate this into your life, because it will change your life. And if you have, and if you are, share your story, tell your friends, tell your family. That's really how this company has grown, is by people having profound outcomes and telling everybody they know about it. And it's truly a beautiful thing. For me, it's the honor of my career of work to be able to have a hand in bringing these products to the world. And it's just an absolute beautiful thing. So, Martin, we appreciate everything you do and the support you've given to us through helping bring these to the world through your audience and through the Life Enthusiast business. So we're grateful for that.
Thank you. Well, you heard it. The general manager of Magic Dical Americas, Sean McDonald. You will find the fine products. It's Nanosoma, and that's spelled Nanosoma, if you need to write it down. And you'll find it at life-enthusiast.com. This is Martin Pytela for the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Martin.